This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Our underground network is standing by at the drop zone to distribute.
The transmission is being jammed. Looks like the Empire came out to welcome us.
Attention, Rebel Convoy. This system is under Imperial control. Stand down or be destroyed.
What a surprise. Star Wars Sabers and Scoundrels.
Starships.
Carabast.
Yeah. Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. A Scoundrel Special Edition.
Greetings, Scoundrels. We're back. And welcome to this Scoundrel Special Edition. If you are new to Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, then this format might seem a little different compared to our usual shows. That's because it is. Our Scoundrel Special Editions are between the show's bonus episodes, and we usually use them to focus on an episode of Rebels or something else that just doesn't fit into our regular programming. With that formality out of the way, I'm happy to introduce my friend and co-host, Darth Taxus.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good.
Yeah, happy Rebels.
Happy Rebels. Yeah, I'm glad it's back. Our other co-host and friend Jay Krebs is not going to be able to join us for this release due to, well, let's just put it this way. We had a whole lot of stuff going on between power outages and internet connections and colds and things this week. So we just finally had to get this done. But we miss Jay, and we're looking forward to having her with us for at least part of episode 49 coming out shortly after this. But on this episode, we are talking the two most recent episodes of Rebels, Jedi Night and Dume. So, Taxus, please sound the spoiler alert, as this is a full spoiler discussion, and there are some huge spoilers. With that out of the way, here we go. Here's our episode summary of Jedi Night. Kanan begins the episode in meditation and asks Ezra to take over the lead in their current mission to rescue Hera from the Empire. In preparing for this mission, he cuts his hair and shaves his beard. With Ezra and Sabine disguised as TIE pilots, the trio infiltrate Lothal on gliders made to look like Loth-bats. Kanan tracks down and rescues Hera, while Sabine and Ezra secure transportation. However, during their escape, Kanan and Hera are attacked by Rook and land at Lothal's fuel depot. As they make their escape, Hera finally confesses the depths of her feelings for Kanan as Governor Price attacks the depot with an AT-AT, or AT-AT, if you're so inclined. Kanan heroically sacrifices himself so that the other rebels can escape, and then becomes one with the Force. So, yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
In 60 seconds or less, Taxus, what's your overall impression or thoughts on this episode?
Well, it had to happen, but it was really a bummer to see it happen.
Yeah.
I guess that's the long and short of it. That I mean, the whole thing was basically a setup for Kanan's demise, you know?
Certainly.
Yeah, so, and it was, it kind of tugs on your heartstrings, so, it was really tough.
Yeah, well, quite frankly, the Kanan sacrifice, I think, is going to be the focus of most of this discussion for the next 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, did you kind of feel like he knew that he was on his way out from the very beginning of this episode?
Yeah, I think he did. I think he's known since last half season, what he was going to have to do. And so, the shaving of the beard and the hair, I want to say, isn't there some sort of symbolism in that for passing on?
Well, I don't know so much if it's for passing on. I had suspected maybe he was trying to, I don't know so much as reclaim a look or a feeling or personality of Caleb Dume.
Yeah.
Who, from the Kanan comic.
He did look just like that. Right. Yeah.
Right. And so, but it was very ceremonial, when he kneeled down in front of that table and he held the dagger out in front of him and, he reached behind his head and cut off the top, this ponytail top knot, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then, he grabbed his chin and you knew the beard was going next. So I think there was something to that. Then he spent time throughout the episode. He just asked Ezra to take charge of the mission, and it was purportedly for the reason that his feelings for Hera were going to possibly cloud his judgment. Right. But I also kind of wondered if maybe that wasn't because he knew he wasn't going to survive, that he was going to he was going to have to sacrifice himself for the good of the team, and he needed somebody else in charge so that when he was gone, it wasn't a well, there goes the guy that knows the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, see, at first I thought he wasn't even going to go on the mission with them. You know, I thought that that's what he meant. And so when he's jumping on one of those, gliders, I was kind of like, well, okay. I thought you said you were going to be too distracted or something, but I guess you're right. It's just he didn't want to be in a position of calling the shots, right, so to speak. But let's face it, he was really in the lead the entire time.
Certainly, yeah. I think he had to have Ezra plan the mission so that Ezra knew what was supposed to happen, where they were supposed to be, and that perhaps Kanan didn't know exactly when or how he was going to go, although the next episode would suggest that he did. But the last thing he wanted was to have this sacrifice occur, and then Ezra, Sabine, and Hera end up trapped or dead because no one else knew what to do next. I mean, it was a very emotional moment for everybody, as he's there on top of that fuel depot holding back the fire. Right. Sabine pulls away. She's already wiping her eyes. Hera's screaming. Ezra's dumbfounded. And so,
but he had to push them away, though.
True.
To a certain extent. Yeah, they weren't going. He was like, get out of here.
But as soon as he did that, Sabine then took control of the shuttle and pulled them. Right. She understood. She's a good soldier. She figured out what she had to do and she did it. So there was that, and he also made a point of telling Ezra how proud he was of him and how far he's come. Yeah. And then that when they got to Lothal, and I'm using that name for the city more than the planet at this point. Right. But he had that moment where, as he was getting ready to scale down the side of the building, he, very pointedly, said, "May the Force be with you." And, you may remember, it was a couple episodes ago before the break when Hera was leaving Lothal to go back to Yavin to secure the help of the rest of the rebellion for their attack. Right. She had that "May the Force be with you" line to Kanan, and during our discussion of that episode, that scene very much like the Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi from Revenge of the Sith, "May the Force be with you, old friend." We're never going to see each other again, type of a moment. Now, obviously they did, but I got that same feeling up my spine in this episode that I'm saying goodbye to you too.
I did too. I got the exact same thing. And I mean, I could just see, I don't know. It's not like they really had signs on the wall literally saying, "Hey, everybody, he's about to die." But they did a great sense of building this foreboding feeling.
Yes, they did.
And I don't know how they did it, because all along I'm just like, oh no, it's coming. Oh no, it's coming. But I just didn't expect it to happen that fast. Like, I was thinking it would happen in the next episode in Doom. You know what I mean?
Because there is. Well, let's think about this for a second. This is the first episode that we had this past Monday. So this was Jedi Night. Then there was Doom. There's 2 more episodes this coming week, and then I'm not sure if it's counted as 2 or 3 episodes in the final week because it's like an hour and a half or whatever. Right. And so they killed them off with plenty of time to spare. Yeah. And I was not expecting that. If anyone was going to go or perish, I was expecting that to happen closer to the very end, not with this much time left in the season.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah. Speaking of which, hey, did that remind you when he was holding the blast back? Did that remind you of anything?
Yes, Anakin doing it in Clone Wars.
Oh, I was thinking of Vader. Kind of the same thing, but remember in the new comic when he's holding the explosion from happening?
Oh, yeah, that grenade.
He's telling the droid, hurry.
I was that because the clones threw the grenade into that room where he was researching the computer. Yeah. And he held that explosion together. Yeah. While the droid finished its research. And then, I hadn't thought of that one, but there was an episode of Clone Wars, and I can't for the life of me remember exactly what the episode was, but he and maybe Ahsoka and someone else were in a passageway, and an explosion happened, and it came down the hall, and Anakin turned around and used the Force to hold the explosion back and force someone else out through the door. And it closed behind him. Now, he survived, but he was in bad shape. I'm going to have to go back and figure out which episode that was, or maybe someone listening to this can tweet it at us. But this was something we'd seen in Clone Wars before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, it was a good effect how you could see the flames just being willed back away, Yeah. I mean, he became a fully realized Jedi Master at this point.
Right, and then he got his sight back there at the very end as well.
Yeah, wow, that was
looking at Hera.
Yeah.
Now, I can't remember if it was on Rebels Recon or where, but there was this notion that after he had lost his sight, back at the end of what was that, season 2?
Yep.
When they ran into Darth Maul, that he had said to Hera, we'll see each other again at some point. And I guess that was the inspiration for that moment, that, he had accepted his fate, accepted his destiny. And so this one last time he was going to get to see her, and that was kind of a symbol of the whole thing. But I remember I watched this with my wife the first time, and I've since watched it a time and a half since then. Yeah. And that first time, as soon as his eyes turned green, Beth, my wife, she goes, "Oh, he's a goner. If he was before, he is now." So
here it is.
Yeah, definitely. But okay, well, there's a lot that can be said there, but I want to touch on some of the other aspects of this issue. Just one general observation that I don't know requires a ton of conversation, but did you notice how much smog there was on Loth-Val when they were looking at the city compared to the first season of this series?
Yeah, and it's probably not just because their budgets increased. It's because it's become a manufacturing hub for the TIE Defender program.
Well, it's been completely stripped of its resources. Yeah. They're cranking out high volume production on this planet, and it is a industrial complex, produce this at all costs type of environment.
Yep.
When you see later, or especially in the next episode, when the rebels are back at their camp away from the city, how much cleaner the air is. But that capital city is a ecological disaster.
Yeah, it's a mess. Looks like downtown LA in the 70s. It's like, and no offense intended to downtown LA in the 70s. It's just a way different mood. It feels much more oppressive that way. I think it's, of course it's under the Imperial rule, and just kind of slide into this other aspect of it. Didn't you think it was interesting that the power struggle between Thrawn and the mentioned Krennic, which we finally got the mention of Krennic. Remember, you and I and Jay had talked about that?
Yeah, because that happened right before the season break.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like the grounding of this episode and the timeline that way. It was a subtle thing. They didn't have to spend a whole lot of time on it. One, we got to see Grand Moff Tarkin again, who's only showing up sparingly at this point. And then, we got mention of Stardust, which is, of course, the Death Star.
And now Tarkin just thinks it's a complete failure.
Oh, yeah, because I'm tired of Krennic's excuses, which have ranged on you for years now, and he's ready to invest all these resources into the TIE Defender program. But the Emperor's got questions, so Thrawn needs to come back and answer them. So he does, and that leaves Governor Price behind to run things. And okay, a couple of things about Price. One, good Lord, does that woman like torture? She, because we first see her torturing Hera, and Thrawn walks into the room and asks her what information she's come by, and her response is, "Oh, none yet. I haven't even asked her any questions." She's just frying Hera.
She's just
And so that was sadistic. And then two, Price was so desperate for that win over this band of rebels that she went all in and fired on the depot when they were there, and essentially handed the victory to the rebels. This is kind of getting into the next episode too, but it was there they are, I'm going to kill them. Now, let me ask you, did that remind you of anything?
Yes, it did. It reminded me of Thrawn, the book.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And because I feel like Price, before that moment in Thrawn, she wouldn't have been so keen on torture. You know what I mean? Or she at some point, probably when she was betrayed by her friends, spoiler, in the book, something snapped, because I never really got the feeling, like, starting out, that she would be somebody that would just, do something like that to somebody just for the fun of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like she
in
was
the Thrawn novel. She really climbed the scale, the power scale there, and the ladder, I should say.
Yeah.
And when she got to the top, she had the potential for everything to come crumbling around her. And so, for those that aren't familiar with what we're talking about, she essentially used this. There was a city that was being shielded from the Empire, and there was a bomb in the city. And to hide essentially a murder that she committed in that city to cover her tracks, she further covered her tracks by detonating the bomb, which would have been bad enough, except for the shield reflected the explosion back in on the city and caused thousands of more deaths. Yeah. So, she really proved how ruthless she can be. And then that's the same feeling I got with this episode here. Was at the end, it was she was so driven on scoring that victory over the rebels, destroying Kanan, that she couldn't see the forest for the trees. She took out the fuel depot, which is, we'll save that part of this conversation until we get to Dume. Yeah. But
even when some lieutenant's like, Governor, and she's like, shut up, fire. But
now, and it's, as a quickly learning here, it's impossible to talk about this episode without getting into the next one. Another element here that showed up in this episode was Hera's Kalikori, which is that heirloom that she had back on Ryloth. It's a family heirloom, and she adds totems to it for loved ones and members of her family. It's a way of remembering. And Thrawn took it from Ryloth and has used it to study, and we all know Thrawn's MO is that he studies the art of his enemies as a way of understanding and anticipating them. And so that's what he had been doing. And he marches into the interrogation chamber with it and wants to ask Hera questions about, now, how arrogant is that?
Yeah.
It's like, let's take a break from you being tortured, and I want some further insight. You should be honored. I've got your Kalikori, and it'll be a treasured part of my collection. And this is a family-based podcast, so I'm not going to say what my reaction would have been to that. But it was, wow. I don't know if that's how the Chiss do things on a regular basis, but seriously.
Yeah, and again, Thrawn seems much darker here than I think in the book, but I don't know. It's almost like that taunting effect. Do you think that felt like kind of out of character for him to you?
Well, Thrawn has got some social awkwardness to him. For all of his brilliance, we saw in the Thrawn novel that he had to have Eli Vanto around. Now, the reason he gave in the novel and the comic adaptation, which just started, is that he wasn't completely comfortable with speaking basic, and therefore he needed someone to help translate and help him understand. But he only, I don't want to say begrudgingly, but sort of acknowledged that he needed Vanto around in order to understand the human society and human culture and this part of the galaxy. So perhaps that's part of it. That's just a Chiss thing. But yeah, I agree with you. There's some arrogance there. It can't, it's just, I've beat you, and before you perish, I want to know a little bit more about this. Now, I guess the other thing I'd say about that is one of the things that's supposed to make him so brilliant is his ability to deduce things about a culture from their art. So, it seems like he's just kind of giving that up, which is, I don't understand this. You tell me about it.
Yeah. Or maybe he already knows. He just wants to see what her answer is. That's an interrogation technique. Once you know the information, you can kind of figure out if they're willing to go along and give you more.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure exactly what he hoped to learn with that technique. I get what you're saying, but it is we already know all about you robbing the bank.
Right.
It's like, so tell us about Jack and John. John wasn't there, so you essentially get a confession. But that wasn't really what was happening in this case.
Yeah, because he's like, what is this dangly thing?
Yeah.
And did you use fishing line? Interesting. Did you get that from Michael's or?
Well, one last thing to want to address on this episode, and then we can give our final thoughts on it before we turn to Dume.
Sure.
But Hera, she gets drugged by the interrogation.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was. I would have preferred to have seen some funny moments out of Hera if she had accidentally drugged herself, maybe rather than a result of torture.
Yeah.
But yeah,
torture drugs aren't very fun at all.
Well, it's not exactly the best idea for
A good
sort
party,
of humor.
no.
But at any rate, pardon me.
No problem.
It is what it is. And, you know, so she had that whole, you know, Price was asking her, where are the rebels? And, you know, she sees Kanan climbing down the window. Oh, Kanan, he's here, which is, you know, take away the context. That was kind of funny. And then, you know, when Rook comes in and gets Price and they leave the room. And she says to the two stormtroopers, is like, you know, I'm wondering how he's going to, you know, you two are in such trouble. I wonder how he's going to come in. You know, that Kanan slices through the floor. Now, that scene we'd seen in the trailer when he sliced through the floor and pulled the stormtrooper out. But it really didn't do the overall scene justice without that effect of what Hera had to say before. And then so yeah, Hera had a chance to be kind of humorous and funnier. She's had some lines over the course of the series, but this was I don't know. It was just that all this came right before.
Yes, you knew what was going to happen. Yeah. And so
she finally opens it up to Kanan about her feelings. She admits that it's all her. It has nothing to do with the drugs. And, you know, as you and I have discussed, we really believe that Kanan knows that he's on his way out.
Yeah.
And wow, you know, this one really pulls on the heartstrings.
Yeah, it's heavy, man. I mean, it's hard to reconcile it. I mean, you know, we've said from day one we knew it was going to happen. Eventually, someone's going to die. You know, and of course, I know Pablo said that was it Pablo or no, it was Filoni. He said no, it's not necessarily because of Yoda saying, "Hey, there aren't any Jedi around except for us." You know, that's not the reason why he would die. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I guess that's always one of the reasons why I thought he would. Now, Ezra is another matter because, you know, I mean, it's specifically the title of the episode is Jedi Night. So it's talking about Kanan. You know, I'd almost say master, though, at this point.
Yeah, but it was Night N-I-G-H-T, not K-N-I-G-H-T. It was, so I took it as a... Pardon me again. My clue on that was, is as opposed to Jedi morning, the beginning of a Jedi's life or whatever. Jedi night is kind of like a Jedi night fall. It's the end of a Jedi. The night comes last.
Yeah.
The dawn is first. And I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but I was thinking about we first were introduced release-wise to Kanan in A New Dawn, but not John Jack Miller, and so that was kind of his beginning. And then we, of course, in the canon, what comes first is the Kanan comic, and that's where we got to see him as he was a Padawan and the such. But this is Jedi Night. This is where he leaves the canon, so to speak. So. There's that as well. One last comment, and then we'll get into our final thoughts here. But just this notion that you brought up that Yoda's line, the last of the Jedi you will be. You're not the only one that's thought that. It's that's a very common. When Yoda said that means that Luke can be the only Jedi in the galaxy. I think Rebels Recon did a good job of addressing this, and it's something that I've believed for a while. You can't necessarily take everything that Yoda and Obi-Wan say about the Jedi as 100%, this is the factual truth about the Jedi. I think sometimes they're speaking metaphorically, sometimes they're speaking in a certain context, so to speak. Because it's think of it this way. It's like, Tarkin says in A New Hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi here, surely not, you're the last of that ancient religion. Well, that was blatantly wrong. And so, we know that Obi-Wan bends the truth to suit his purposes. And what good would it have done Luke to know from Yoda on his deathbed that there might be another Jedi out there? Because in the end, it wasn't that any Jedi could beat Darth Vader. It was that it took an act of love that only Darth Vader's son, daughter, in this case, it could have been Princess Leia, could have gone through with. So anyways, there's that thought. So with all that said, you want to give me your final thought on this episode? And I guess we've gotten to the habit of grading these. Go what your grade is.
Taxus said. So yeah, you know what, I'm gonna give this one a 9. No, I'm gonna do it 100 because man, it was tough. You know what I mean? And they did a good job making him go out like the way he should. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It and just the emotion behind it. The only thing is, I would not have gotten on one of those so-called gliders.
Right.
That thing looks like it'd just drop right out of the sky, But yeah, it's tough, and that's why, I don't know, it was even really harder whenever Zeb had to kind of find out, after the fact he wasn't there.
Well, we'll find that out in Doom, and we'll discuss Doom. So, okay, so 100, that's really good. I wonder...
It just meant a lot, that's why I gave it such a high score. Yeah.
Sure. I wonder what my experience would have been watching this episode if we didn't have all of the episode titles and descriptions a couple weeks ago. And so I remember watching this episode with a lot of apprehension, and I wonder if that would have been there if I didn't, know there was an episode coming up where the description was, dealing with a major loss.
Right.
So, but I don't know, kind of got the feeling early on that this, especially with the way that Kanan was talking, that it was more of a feeling of confirmation that this is what was going to happen. But I wonder if I would have sensed that without knowing that in the past. But we'll never know. Yeah. With that being said, I'm a harsh critic, a harsh judge this season. I'm going to give it a 93, which was a little bit higher than when we started this conversation, what I would have given it. Why would I mark it down? I think I'm coming around to thinking Jedi's fate was fitting, but I kind of was expecting him to go fighting Darth Vader, fighting someone else with a lightsaber, making a sacrifice that way. Not that this is any less worthy, but I just kind of had him going out. Maul got to go out to Obi-Wan with a lightsaber. Yeah. Something like that. If Maul got that type of a fate, I was kind of expecting the same for Kanan, but it's not to be.
No.
All right. Well, let's take a look at Doom. Okay. And here's our description. Ezra, Sabine, and Hera return to their headquarters, where Zeb eagerly awaits their arrival. However, his excitement is short-lived as his friends break the news that Kanan is now gone. In Lothal, Governor Price has a holo communication with Thrawn, who is most displeased. By destroying the fuel depot, the TIE Defender program has come to a screeching halt. However, Price decides to throw a mandatory parade. Yay! Without additional assistance from the rebellion, the majority of the rebels leave the rebel base. On Lothal, Sabine and Zeb decide to crash the parade, but end up fighting Rook, and they learn the truth that Kanan's sacrifice effectively completed their mission to stop the TIE Defender program. Hera continues to grieve over Kanan, but comes to realize that he always saw a way to go on, and she adds him to her Kalikori. Ezra has an encounter with the Loth-wolves, and he learns that the Jedi Temple on Lothal is in danger from the Empire. Hera, Sabine, Zeb, and Ezra regroup, and they decide to fight on with their first mission to protect the Jedi Temple on Lothal. So, I say first mission. I think it is the first mission of this reconstituted group of cell of rebels. Okay, so we've talked about Governor Price, but she's trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes that, in her eagerness to defeat Kanan, and she's really relishing that victory, she's essentially destroyed the TIE Defender project. Yeah. And so she's going to throw a parade to try and fool anyone, but it does not work.
Yeah. Thrawn definitely knows what's up, and he makes no bones about telling her exactly what he thinks about it.
Yeah, he tells her he's going to deal with her when he gets back.
Yeah, she's basically ruined his play with this. But
now, I wonder what she's going to do to overcome this, because she's going to have to. She needs to come up with another victory, and one that doesn't have a cost associated with it. But
what if she tries to take out Thrawn?
Well, I suppose, but then she'd have to cover that. And what would she do then? Blow up his Star Destroyer, the Chimera?
Yeah.
So, I guess that's a possibility. But, there's really, now that you said that, I'm wondering. But there's really not a victory for her to have that will fix this. If she somehow were to manage to defeat Hera, Ezra, Sabine, and Zeb, and Chopper, I guess we should not forget him.
Yeah.
So what? The TIE Defender project doesn't magically start again. There's a problem. They don't have the resources they need, and it's not explicitly said, but you get the notion from these two episodes that the Empire, between their budget for Stardust / the Death Star and the TIE Defender project and other things, they don't have as much unlimited funds as we might have otherwise suspected.
Right.
And that they can't fund every single one of these projects. And by losing the fuel depot, they may not be able to get that back, get that restored.
Yeah.
In light of the other things that they're doing.
Yeah, they can't set up a GoFundMe page,
Definitely
for it.
not.
Yeah, and I guess, I don't know, I was kind of thinking that too. I was like, well, okay, so you blew up the fuel depot, just build a new one, and get some more fuel. But yes, but maybe it caused damage down the way too, or something. It's just, I don't know, it just kind of seemed odd to me, but that's a good reason, that they're just strapped, budget-wise. Yeah. Yeah,
well, I guess the problem I have with this entire explanation is that prior to the season break, there was this huge assault planned on Loth-wolves, and we saw Hera's squadron of X-wings and everything got shot down attempting to make this attack.
Yeah,
and they were going to attack the factory. There was nothing said of a fuel depot that I can remember. That's how they were going to take out this mission. It seems kind of a after the fact explanation or way of giving the rebels the win. And perhaps if they had gone a couple episodes ago, they had drawn more of an emphasis on this fuel depot.
Yeah,
we would have gotten more of that moment in the Jedi Knight episode that this was Kanan sacrificed himself, but in doing so, he really got the win.
Yeah,
not to say that not rescuing Hera and the others was not noble in itself and worthy in itself, but it's the. But then again, they
could have been a gun on the wall. In other words,
I suppose. Yeah,
could have been a literary kind of gun on the wall. Yeah,
sure. Well, okay. So let's make sure we get everything covered here. So Sabine and Zeb, hey, let's go take out the parade.
Revenge.
Yeah, I mean, it was like they're gonna have a parade. Excellent. Sabine says she's gonna add some fireworks, and so they clearly a hot-headed move.
Yeah,
and nobody tries to stop them.
No.
No, okay, people are grieving. I get that. But it's just kind of do you feel like they gave up? I mean, it was, they were going to go do something, but, it's just kind of, this is it. Ryder and the others left them there.
Yeah.
And it just seemed so reckless at the time, and no one said anything to them about it.
Yeah, it almost felt like to me, like, well, this is how the group's going to go. You know what I mean? Like, yes.
And I hated that.
Yeah.
I really hated that because they were such a team, for most of 4 seasons now, and Kanan goes and they all lose their heads. And now, I mean, obviously it's a major loss, but you kind of feel like with the Darksaber that Kanan had trained Sabine better than that, and Zed had proven over time that he was able to, he was able to have a calmer head about these things. He could get aggressive at times, but then again, I mean, they hadn't lost anyone as close to them as Kanan. I mean, they lost Ahsoka, at the end of season 2, but even then, she wasn't as an integrated part of the team as Kanan was.
Yeah, everybody grieves in their own way, I guess, is the way, I don't know. I guess that's the way I took it, because Hera totally withdrew.
Yeah. Before we get to her, let's finish off Zeb and Sabine.
Sure.
So they get to, they go to scope out this parade, and that's when they notice that the factories, as Zeb put it, aren't belching out smoke, that they've essentially been shut down. And that's when it dawns, they see right through Governor Price's illusion there too, that Kanan completed the mission with the sacrifice. And I'm sorry, it was funny when they spotted Rook on the highway, and Zeb is looking at him through the binoculars. All of a sudden, Rook looks right at them. Now, this was a callback to some classic movie. I saw that on the episode guide on StarWars.com, and it was just like, he's looking right at me.
What movie was that? Oh my gosh, because you're right, I recognize that scene.
But I love Zeb's reaction. He's looking right at it. And so, eventually they get to that fight with Rook, and they aren't going to play. Sabine sneaks up behind Rook, and then very Predator-esque moment with Rook using that cloaking field.
Yeah, which
I guess was used in Clone Wars too. But I couldn't remember where. Well, and that's kind of a weird throwback to the expanded universe too, because as we were talking about Kira Holt. The John Jackson Miller comic story, Kira Holt goes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the name of. Yeah, it's the Errant. Knight Errant.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
So she had one of those suits, if I remember correctly, in the novel, or she did, or somebody, and it was like a cloaking suit, basically, that kind of helped you blend in with everything. But yeah, that went straight, Predator on him.
Right.
But
But it was the moment they needed because they got their wits again about them. Then it's like, oh, hey, Kanan did complete the mission.
Yeah.
So we got those two covered. Let's talk about Hera next, because I think Ezra has the biggest thing that we need to talk about.
Right.
We'll say that at the end. So as you mentioned, she's still grieving. Chopper is trying to console her, which I'm not sure ironic is the right word.
Yeah.
But, he was the brat of this team for so long,
Right.
and now he's there trying to comfort her, which was touching.
Yeah.
And then she has that realization that Kanan was always the one that found a way, that when things were, and so she doesn't know that the fuel depot has been destroyed. Well, she knows it's been destroyed, but she doesn't know that caused the factory
wind.
to shut down.
Yeah.
And that's caused the wind. But she did have that revelation that, Kanan deserves to be on her Calicori, if anyone does, because of how close they were. And he was the one that, she had that grief because she brought him into the rebellion when he didn't want to do that. He wanted to be their own cell and continue to do the things they were doing.
Right.
But he went along with it. And he was always the one that kind of kept the group in check, that he's the one that found the way when they all lost it. And so she starts to come around. She makes an addition to Calicori. Do you have anything to add about Hera, or can we move on to Ezra?
I kind of wish they or maybe somebody should do one of those kind of sad music montages where you kind of see faded memories, in a circle, while she's working on that thing of her and him in better times.
Interesting idea.
Okay. My imagination went wild on that. But it's, oh boy, that's just got to be tough. It's just, you're gonna blame yourself for some stuff like that, I suppose.
Right.
And but I think that's, I don't know, she kind of, again, she's working out her own therapy on how to deal with it. She's added it, and it was kind of weird. It was like an upside down triangle or something.
Yeah, it was like a little pyramid, upside down pyramid that she put on the bottom with it. That's got some green markings that were similar to some of the markings that Kanan had on his uniform.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, but okay, so there's Hera, and we'll get back to her, and I'm sure she's going to play a much more prominent role in these last couple episodes than she has for most of the season. But anyway, so Ezra, after Sabine and Zeb go off to crash the parade, and Hera is caught up in her grief, he's kind of standing outside their base. Ryder and the other rebels have left, and the wolves make an appearance, and he kind of gets chased out into the middle of a field by some of the wolves who are not happy with him. He finds one of those Loth-wolves rock outcroppings and sits down there, and before he knows it, there's the white Loth-wolf is there, and he turns around, and a gigantic Loth-wolf is there that has a very peculiar marking on its head that looks an awful lot like the symbol that Kanan always wore on his shoulder pauldron.
Oh yeah.
And then this wolf flat out says his name is Dume. So, what do we make of that? I don't believe this is Kanan reincarnated as a wolf, especially not one that huge, that quick. But there's definitely some sort of a connection, because the Loth-wolves, I should say, had already made mention to Dume prior to Kanan dying, a couple episodes ago. Yeah. So, but here's the other part of it, and then there's still a major element we're leaving out. But when Ezra wakes up, he wakes up. He comes to on this rock like he's been dreaming. The wolves are gone, and they're gone. So it's like, did this wolf is this just something he experienced through the Force, or was this wolf actually there?
Well, there was something that they left with him, though, that was in his vision.
Right, but the huge wolf didn't have to be there for that. It was one of the other wolves that left that tablet. But we'll get to that. We'll get to the tablet here in a second. So, I mean, what's your take on that? Was that wolf there? Is this just some sort of a vision through the Force? Is this an experience of the Force, or what do you think?
I think it was a vision, kinda. Maybe it was like another world, I don't know, man. It's far out, but I kind of felt the wolf was like explaining plot point. This wolf
syllables.
You know, yeah. You kind of remind me of Takuvma. Or something, but it was like
crossing the streams.
Oh yeah, a little bit,
Okay,
but no, it was like, okay, so you can say more than Doom. I mean,
yeah. Well, so a couple of things. First of all, they were really upset with Ezra because he sunk into self-pity. The Kanan hit, and the message seemed to be like, they could smell fear on him, and they were upset about that, and they insisted that he fight. And it very much was a situation where. And even Rebels Recon goes into this a little bit, whereas the, Kanan gave you all these things. He trained you as a Jedi. He sacrificed himself, and now you're wallowing in fear. You're wallowing in self-pity. That's not, you're wasting the gifts he gave you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I get all that. I'm beginning to wonder if Doom, we had kind of got into a conversation about the Flight of the Defender episode, that maybe that title was a little bit more on the nose for Ezra as the defender of Loth-wol.
Yeah.
But I'm beginning to wonder if Doom isn't some sort of a Jedi presence on Loth-wol. And it just so happens that Kanan is somehow tied to that. Because, they kept... Hera had made mention a couple episodes ago that they always got drawn back to Loth-wol. But, that they were based off Loth-wol. And, perhaps that's what it is. That there was this... Doom is maybe a Force presence. Something tied to the Force with... Loth-wol, and it's the Force manifesting itself, not necessarily Ahsoka or Kanan now, or or whatever. But that's just a thought. I haven't spent a lot of time dwelling on that, but I'm beginning to wonder because it's a weird coincidence.
Well, it's kind of a weird thing, Well,
it's definitely a weird thing.
Yeah, it's like me. I'm not one to shun the mystic side of things, but. What the heck is going on? I guess that's why I'm just kind of left bewildered a little bit by that whole thing. Well, I just don't know what that's supposed to represent or what it's supposed to be, and it's kind of bugging me.
Yeah. Well, it was very telling that Wolf had that symbol on his head that Kanan had, and I don't know what that symbol is or what it means. Now, someone might. I haven't actually researched it or tried, so I'm speaking from a position of ignorance here. Yeah. But the last piece of this is that the wolves. Ezra asked the wolves what he should do, and then they. As you were illustrating earlier in their own special fight, they basically said, fight. The Jedi Temple's in danger, and what's there? There's secrets there. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they leave a tablet with him, and you were alluding to this when we saw the trailer for Rebels. That it was, what are they called? The people from Mortis, the father, the son, and the daughter. They have a name. It's the whatever. But these beings,
the Morticians.
No, but it's something like the higher beings or whatever. You noticed their fists, their hands, the positions were those hands were highlighted on this tablet.
Yeah,
and of course, you and I and everyone else that saw the trailer knows that this is a reference to that portrait from the beings from Mortis. But if you hadn't seen that, you wouldn't necessarily know that here because there's not exactly any other clues.
Yeah, which makes me, again, there's some significance to the hand signs, maybe, because that's why they're all on this tablet.
One thing is I'm not so convinced anymore that the portrait of the characters from Mortis is a star map. There's been some speculation on that based on like lines and the circles. But if you'll recall in this episode, when Hera is grieving next to that table where Kanan left his mask and that piece of that collection of his ponytail and the knife and everything.
Yeah.
On the wall behind her is a very similar piece of art. And it's got those same lines and circles coming off. And so I think that's more of a Loth-wol art style than anything. But perhaps it is. I don't know. I don't know. That's great. They've got a mission. They're going to rally around this. They're going to go try and save the Jedi Temple. I think we've got some clues as what's going to happen there, especially with Ezra and perhaps the Emperor, as we saw in the trailer.
The wolves are gonna force warp him in or something to the temple somehow.
That's a possibility as well, because they could do it from the rebel base. because that's where they those two rocks close together. They could open that up and get in. And maybe it is a map. Now I'm thinking about that because that's the entrance to that whole force walking thing that they do. Yeah. But so that's coming. But I don't know. Do you like all this mysticism? I mean, I guess you just kind of said you did, but to me, this seems to be creating more confusion. Maybe I'm just ignorant. I'm just not seeing how you analyze this and you get you formulate an answer.
Yeah, this is a really weird Sunday school class in the Church of the Force. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm just like, okay, so the wolves, they are wolves, Forcey wolves. I just don't get it. I guess I just don't get it. That's my thing. And I want to get it. You know what I mean? I don't want this to be some weird, well, how were the wolves and connected to the Force and why were they important? Maybe we'll never know. Woo! It drives me nuts.
Okay. Well, I think we've kind of exhausted our conversation on these two episodes. But so why don't give me your final thought and grade on Doom.
Okay, so I like the touching After Effect moments. I thought the comedy was pretty well placed too for what it needed to be, especially with Zeb and Sabine. That was really funny. I don't know, man. I'm gonna give this like an 88 because the wolf thing's just rubbing me the wrong way.
Yeah, I'm with you. A couple things that we didn't really touch on: how badly Rook got beaten up during that fight, and how Sabine completely painted him like a clown when it was all done. That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
It was good to see the team get back together at the end. I know during Rebels Recon, and I recommend everyone check that out on StarWars.com, especially for this episode. Dave Filoni, I think it was Dave Filoni, made the remark that the team really needed time to grieve, and the audience was probably going to need an opportunity to grieve as well. The loss of Kanan, which I think is definitely true, which I think makes this episode more fitting. When a chunk of it felt like a real downer to me. I am going to grade it an 85 with the potential of getting it all the way up to an A, much like I've done with many of the other episodes featuring the wolves this season, based on whatever that is they end up doing with the wolves and what answers they give us at the end of the season. I am not against having some mystery, but as I've pointed out before, what gets to me is that the mysteries just keep building, and I don't know that we actually are ever given the building blocks to come up with a theory that answers everything. If they don't want to give us, if they don't want to blatantly tell us, that's fine, but we should at least have enough there to figure it out. And so, we're still dealing with, is Ahsoka alive or dead? What happened to the Bendu? What's up with these wolves? What's with the guys from Mortis? Now we may find that out in this series, and that's great. That might improve my overall feelings about Mortis. But for that reason,
are those just pitch signs? You know what I mean? The hands,
sure. Right? Yeah, pitch count.
Slider.
Yeah, give us the heater. But anyway, so it has the opportunity. I could see it being an A if there's something that comes out of this. And Rebels has done that in the past. Things that we thought were filler at the time ended up playing a bigger role in later episodes. Not just this season, but in prior seasons as well. So there is that opportunity. It's just that it... boy, I sound like such a brat. It's just kind of testing my patience.
No, and it doesn't even have to solve everything, but I just want to know why it's important to them.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's it.
Absolutely.
That's why.
Okay, well, that's going to do it for our review of Jedi Night and Dume. Before we go, Taxus, what else do you have going on?
I can be found over on Assembly Geeks Network with the Geek Supreme with Scott Murray, Regina Davis, and Jeff McGee, and that drops every Tuesday. So.
Yep, we all had a fun toy episode this past week. I really enjoyed that one. If you want to find more about Jay, she has her Core Word Couture column over on Coffee with Kenobi. She also does a blog there. Definitely check that out. Of course, she does our That's the Wizard segment, which is a nice companion piece to her Core Words Couture column. So definitely make sure you look at those. Of course, I'm covering all the comics, Star Wars comics from Marvel. Some really great ones lately include Darth Vader #11, Poe Dameron's continuing to be great, and the Thrawn adaptation is off to a good start. So you can check out all my thoughts on retrozap.com. I've also started a new project that's going to run through now to Avengers Infinity War, where I'm looking back at the Infinity Gauntlet series from the from the 90s. So definitely follow along with that. That's been fun. And then, of course, my wife and I, Beth, we do the Warp Trails podcast, which is devoted to Discovery. We are going to start getting into some original series episodes, Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, bunch of episodes that had to do with things that came up during the first season of Discovery while we're waiting for Discovery to come back. We don't even know when that's going to happen. So,
did you see that Michael Burnham's going to be at Fan Expo?
No, that just get announced?
Yep, today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely got another reason to go.
It's pretty cool.
But if you want to find us on social media, we are at SQPod on Twitter and Instagram. And on Facebook, we are facebook.com/SQPod. You can email us at sqpod@retrozap.com. You can follow Darth Taxus on Twitter at Darth Taxus. I am at DJKVER2, and Jay is at Joyce Krebs. Speaking of RetroZap, we are a proud part of the RetroZap.com podcast network. The network currently features 21 shows. A lot of them are devoted to Star Wars, but we got other great shows like the Deucecast Movie Show, which covers movies, Dorklair, and the Sandcrawler, which are devoted to collectibles. The Animaniacast, you pick it. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on over there at RetroZap. You can also subscribe to the network feed to get all of them. That's going to do it for this Scoundrel Special Edition. We'll talk to you all soon with another edition of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Until then, may the Force be with you.
Hey, Dennis. Do you think Hera is officially available now?
Oh, Taxus.
Oh, I see. We're in a special mood thanks to the interrogation droid.
Well, I didn't like that droid, Kanan.
No, I didn't like that droid either.
Wait. I have to tell you something. I hate your hair.
It's the best I could do without a mirror.
Your hair hasn't been this short since we first met.
That reminds me. I brought you a present.
A present? Kanan, you haven't got me a present since we first met.
I know, but you'll like this one.
Kanan, this is mine.
I know.
Then it's not really a present?
Party's over. Let's go.